The alien commander's laughter was a sound that echoed across the battlefield, cold and mocking. His towering form stood before the ragtag human soldiers, his shimmering armor reflecting the blinding sun. In his eyes, they were weak, a species barely worth conquering. His voice boomed through the translator, dripping with disdain. "These toys you call weapons? Pathetic." Captain Reed tightened his grip on his rifle, his knuckles turning white. Behind him, his squad shifted nervously. The aliens' troops were monstrous, each carrying weapons that hummed with a deadly energy unknown to humanity. Reed's heart pounded, but his eyes stayed locked on the commander. "Stand firm," he whispered to his men. "We die standing." The commander's laughter grew louder, echoing through the barren desert valley. His soldiers joined in, their guttural voices blending into a sinister chorus. They were mocking humanity itself, dismissing their courage as foolishness. The commander raised a hand, his laughter fading. "I almost pity you. Almost." The air grew heavy. Reed's squad looked at him, eyes wide with fear. He felt it too, the cold grip of dread. Yet, his resolve held firm. He thought of his family, the cities destroyed, the millions enslaved. Surrender was not an option. Just then, a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Prototype is ready, sir. Awaiting your command." Reed's heart skipped a beat. The weapon, the one they said was humanity's last hope. A weapon unlike any other, created in secret, born from desperation. But no one knew if it would work. He glanced at his team. Their faces were pale, but their eyes held that stubborn human fire. Reed allowed himself a small, grim smile. The aliens saw weakness, but they didn't understand. They couldn't. He looked back at the commander, who was now watching him with curious amusement. Reed raised his rifle, not as a threat, but as a statement. "Laugh while you can." He gave the order. The air split with a sound unlike any other, a hum so deep it shook the ground. The alien commander's grin vanished, his eyes widening in shock. His troops stumbled, their laughter cut short. The air around them rippled, bending light itself. Then, there was silence. The battlefield was still. The mocking laughter was gone, replaced by stunned disbelief. Captain Reed lowered his rifle, his voice steady. "Who's laughing now?" The alien commander's shock was palpable. His confident stance faltered as the energy wave spread across the battlefield, bending reality itself. His soldiers, moments ago roaring with laughter, stood frozen, their mocking grins twisted into expressions of confusion and fear. Captain Reed held his breath, eyes fixed on the enemy lines. The prototype weapon had fired without a visible projectile, just a low hum that resonated through the air, distorting light and sound. It was eerie, almost unnatural. Reed tightened his grip on his rifle, his voice low. "Stay alert. This isn't over." The alien commander shook off his surprise, his face contorting with fury. He shouted in his guttural language, his voice echoing across the valley. His soldiers snapped to attention, their weapons charging with a familiar, ominous hum. Their shock was gone, replaced by anger. Reed's earpiece crackled again. It was Dr. Ilera, the scientist behind the prototype. Her voice was tense. "Captain, the pulse was successful, but the power source is unstable. It wasn't meant to be fired in this atmosphere. You need to retreat, now." Reed glanced at his squad. They were ready, eyes fierce with determination. Running wasn't an option. Not now. Not after the alien's laughter. He spoke into the mic, his voice steady. "We're holding the line, document. Give me options." There was a pause, then a sigh. "All right. The prototype has one more shot before it overloads. But it will release a feedback wave, no idea what it'll do. It could disintegrate everything in a mile radius, or nothing at all. Reed's jaw tightened. He looked back at the alien commander, whose confidence was returning. The commander pointed his weapon at Reed, his lips curling into a sneer. "Your trickery won't save you. Prepare to be erased." Reed's heart pounded, but he stood firm. The commander had no idea what humanity was capable of. What desperation could create. Reed raised his rifle again, his voice cold. "You first." Before the commander could respond, Reed shouted, "Fire the second pulse." Time seemed to slow. The air hummed, growing louder and louder until it became a roar. The ground trembled. The alien troops staggered, their weapons flickering. The commander's eyes widened in panic. He shouted orders, but his voice was drowned out by the rising hum. Then, it happened. A blinding flash erupted from behind Reed, engulfing the battlefield in a wave of energy. It wasn't like the first pulse. This was raw, uncontrolled power. The light bent, colors warping in unnatural ways. The ground cracked, rippling like water. Reed's squad fell to their knees, shielding their eyes. Reed stood firm, forcing himself to watch. The alien soldiers were frozen, their bodies vibrating, flickering between existence and nothingness. Their weapons shattered, disintegrating into dust. The commander fought against the wave, his armor sparking, fragments peeling away. His face twisted with rage and fear. He tried to move, to attack, but his body flickered, his form becoming translucent. He looked at Reed, eyes wide with realization. "This is impossible." Reed's voice was cold. "You underestimated us." The wave reached its peak, then collapsed inward, sucking the light and sound back into itself. There was a moment of perfect silence. Then, the battlefield returned to normal, the air still and quiet. The alien army was gone, wiped out without a trace. Reed lowered his rifle, his hands trembling. His squad slowly stood, eyes wide with disbelief. One of them, Private Lang, whispered, Did we win?" Reed didn't answer. He was staring at the spot where the commander had stood, his mocking laughter still echoing in his mind. It was over. But at what cost? His earpiece crackled. Dr. Ilara's voice was shaky. "Captain, the prototype, it's gone. Disintegrated. We can't recreate that weapon. It was a one-time miracle." Reed looked at his squad, at the empty battlefield. They were alive. Humanity was safe. For now. But the victory felt hollow. The power they had unleashed was beyond anything he could comprehend. A weapon that defied the laws of physics and morality. He turned away, his voice heavy. "Prepare to move out. We need to report this, and pray we never have to use something like that again." As they marched away from the silent battlefield, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. The aliens had laughed at their weakness. But what would they do now, knowing humanity's true power? And what would humanity do, knowing they had a weapon that could erase existence itself? The march back to base was heavy, each step sinking into the dust-covered ground. The sky was a muted gray, clouds hanging low, as if the planet itself mourned the battle that had just ended. Captain Reed walked at the front, his shoulders tense, eyes fixed on the horizon. But his mind was elsewhere, on the weapon, on the alien commander's face, on the emptiness left behind. Private Lang broke the silence, his voice uneasy. "Captain, that blast, it didn't just kill them. They vanished. Like they were erased." Reed's jaw clenched. He had noticed it too. There were no bodies, no wreckage, just an empty field where an army had stood moments before. He looked over his squad, faces pale, eyes haunted. They had won, but the victory felt wrong, hollow. Sergeant Milo spat into the dust, his voice rough. "They deserved it. They thought we were weak, mocked us. They wanted us gone. He kicked a stone, sending it tumbling. Well, now they're the ones who disappeared. Reed didn't respond. His chest tightened, a heavy knot forming. Milo was right. The aliens had attacked without mercy. But the way they were erased, it wasn't natural. It felt like something that shouldn't exist in this universe. They reached the base, a sprawling structure of metal and concrete nestled into the rocky landscape. As they approached, Dr. Elara rushed out, her lab coat flapping behind her. Her eyes were wide with panic, a data pad clutched in her hands. "Captain," she shouted, breathless. "We have a problem." Reed's stomach sank. He had been expecting this. "What is it, Doc?" She held up the data pad, the screen flickering with erratic lines of code. The energy signature from the weapon, it didn't dissipate. "It's spreading." Reed's eyes narrowed. "Spreading? How?" Elara's face paled. "It's like a ripple, a shockwave in spacetime. The prototype didn't just destroy the aliens, it broke reality around them. We're detecting distortions, echoes of them, like they're stuck between dimensions." Reed's blood ran cold. "You mean they're not dead?" Elara shook her head, fear etched into her features. "I don't know. But whatever the weapon did, it's not finished. It's still active, and it's affecting everything around us." Reed looked back at the battlefield, now miles away but still visible against the bleak landscape. A faint shimmer hung in the air, almost like heat waves, distorting the view. It was subtle, but wrong, like looking through broken glass. Lang's voice trembled. "Captain, what did we do?" Reed's fists tightened. They had used a weapon they didn't understand, a weapon meant to save them, but it had done more than just defeat the enemy. It had broken something fundamental. He turned to Elara. "Can you stop it?" She hesitated, biting her lip. I don't know. This technology, it wasn't meant for this world. It bends the rules of physics, of existence itself. If we try to interfere, we could make it worse." Milo growled, his patience wearing thin. "So what? We just leave it? Let that, whatever it is, spread?" Elara's eyes flicked to the shimmering air, her voice barely above a whisper. "If it keeps spreading, it could erase this entire planet, maybe more." The squad fell silent, faces pale with fear. Reed's mind raced. They had unleashed a force they couldn't control, couldn't contain. A force that defied the universe itself. He looked at his team, loyal, brave, but shaken. They had trusted him, followed him into battle. And now? His earpiece crackled, the familiar voice of command coming through. "Captain Reed, report. Did the prototype succeed?" Reed closed his eyes, his voice hollow. "The enemy is gone, but we have a bigger problem." Command's voice was cold, calculating. "Explain." Reed took a deep breath. "The weapon broke reality. It's spreading. If we don't stop it, there won't be anything left." There was a pause, then a harsh response. "Understood. You are ordered to contain the anomaly at all costs. Use any means necessary. If containment fails, prepare for planetary evacuation." The line went dead. Reed's jaw tightened. Abandoning this planet, leaving behind everything they fought for, it felt like surrender. Like defeat. But staying meant facing the consequences of their own creation. A weapon that defied nature, defied reason. A weapon born out of desperation, out of fear. His voice was firm, steady. "We're not leaving. Not until we fix this." He looked at Elara, his eyes hard. "You made this thing. Now help me end it." She nodded, determination replacing her fear. "I'll do whatever it takes." Reed turned to his squad, his voice commanding. Gear up. We're heading back to the anomaly. If we made this mess, we're the ones who'll clean it up. As they prepared to return to the battlefield, Reed's mind raced with questions. What had they unleashed? Where did the aliens go? And most importantly, could they undo the damage before it erased everything? One thing was certain, they weren't just fighting an enemy anymore. They were fighting reality itself. The air was heavy with tension as Captain Reed and his squad marched back toward the shimmering anomaly. The landscape was eerily silent, the dust hanging in the air as if time itself had slowed. Reed's heart pounded with each step, his mind swirling with possibilities, none of them good. The shimmer grew clearer as they approached. It hung in the air like a curtain of fractured light, warping everything behind it. The ground near the anomaly was cracked, jagged lines spider-webbing across the surface as if reality was splintering apart. Ilara's hands trembled as she scanned the anomaly with her device. Numbers and symbols danced across the screen, erratic and nonsensical. She shook her head, eyes wide with fear. This shouldn't exist. It's like space is folding in on itself. Reed gripped his rifle tighter, his voice steady. Can you stabilize it? Ilara looked at him, panic threatening to overtake her. I don't know. The energy signature, it's rewriting the laws of physics. Every calculation I run just breaks. Sergeant Milo grunted, his eyes fixed on the shifting light. Then what's the plan, Captain? We gonna just stand here and watch the universe fall apart? Reed's jaw tightened. He had no answers, no clear strategy. But he knew one thing, they couldn't leave this anomaly unchecked. If it spread, it would consume the planet, maybe more. He looked at Ilara, his voice firm. You said it's a ripple. Ripples have sources. Where's this one coming from? Ilara hesitated, then pointed toward the center of the distortion. There. The blast's epicenter. That's where the prototype fired. Reed's eyes narrowed. The place where he had ordered the weapon to be used. The place where the aliens had been erased. He took a deep breath. Then that's where we go. Milo's eyes widened. You're kidding. You want us to walk into that thing? Reed didn't flinch. If that's what it takes to stop this, then yes. Lang's face paled, his voice trembling. Captain, what if we don't come back? Reed looked at his team, faces etched with fear, but also with loyalty. They had followed him through hell before. He wouldn't abandon them now. His voice softened. I won't order you to go. But I'm going in. Whatever this is, it's my responsibility. I fired the shot. I broke this world. He turned to the anomaly, the light dancing like shattered glass. And I'm going to fix it. There was silence, then Milo stepped forward, his voice gruff. You're not going alone. Someone's gotta watch your back. Lang swallowed hard, his hands shaking. Me too, sir. If this is the end, I want to face it with my team. Ilara's eyes hardened with resolve. I started this by building that weapon. I'll see it through to the end. Reed felt a surge of pride. Whatever happened next, he knew he had the best people by his side. They moved closer to the anomaly, the air growing colder, sharper. It felt wrong, like the very fabric of existence was fraying. The ground beneath them cracked, dust swirling in spirals. Ilara's device beeped wildly, red lights flashing. The distortion is increasing. We need to move, now. Reed gave a sharp nod. Stay close. No one gets left behind. They stepped into the shimmer, and the world shattered. The air was heavy, thick, as if they were underwater. Colors bled together, shapes twisting and warping. Reed's head spun, his vision blurring. He stumbled forward, his body feeling weightless and heavy at the same time. Then, suddenly, they were through. The world snapped back into focus, but it was wrong. They stood in the same battlefield, the same dusty plains, but everything was distorted. The sky was fractured, jagged lines running through the clouds. The ground flickered, shifting between solid earth and emptiness. It was like standing inside a broken mirror. Lang's voice was a whisper. "Where are we?" Ilara's face was pale, eyes wide with horror. "We're between. Caught in the ripple. We're in the echo." Reed's heart pounded. The echo? Of what? Ilara looked around, her voice trembling. Of the moment the weapon fired. Time and space are looping, stuck in the moment of impact. Milo cursed under his breath. "We're in a time loop?" Ilara shook her head. "Not just time. Space too. We're in the shadow of the blast, in the space where reality broke." Reed's eyes scanned the distorted landscape, his mind racing. If this is the echo, then the source should be here too. He moved forward, his team close behind. They walked through the broken world, each step echoing, rippling through the air. The ground flickered beneath them, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent. Then they saw it, a figure standing at the epicenter, motionless, surrounded by fractured light. Reed's breath caught in his throat. It was the alien commander, the one he had fired upon. Its form was hazy, like a ghost, but its eyes were clear, fixed on him. Lang's voice shook. How is that possible?" Ilara's device beeped erratically. "It's not really here. It's an echo, a fragment caught in the distortion. It's reliving the moment of impact, over and over." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. The commander's face was twisted, not with anger or pain, but with understanding. Its eyes met his, and for a moment, Reed felt as if it knew him, knew everything about him. The echo spoke, its voice distorted, echoing. "You broke the circle." Reed's heart raced. "What circle? What are you?" The alien's form flickered, its body fracturing, then reforming. "You used the weapon. You broke reality. Now, the echo spreads." Reed took a step forward. "How do we stop it?" The alien's eyes darkened, its form unraveling. "You cannot stop what does not exist. You cannot fix what was never meant to be." The world around them shuddered, the echo rippling outward. Ilara's device shrieked, red lights flashing. "The distortion is increasing. It's feeding off the echo." Milo gripped his weapon, panic seeping into his voice. "Captain, this place is falling apart." Reed's fists tightened. They were out of time, out of answers. But he couldn't give up. Not yet. His voice was firm, steady. "If the echo is the source, then we end it here. We end this loop." He looked at the alien, its form flickering, fading. "You're stuck here. Reliving this moment. But we're not." He turned to his team, resolve in his eyes. "We find a way out. We break the loop. Or we end it." The world shuddered again, the fractures widening. The echo was collapsing, and they were caught inside it. But Reed wasn't leaving without a fight. The ground trembled beneath them, cracks widening as the echo rippled outward. Captain Reed felt the air grow colder, the light dimming as the distorted world began to collapse. His team stood close, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. But there was something else, too, determination. They had come this far, and Reed knew they wouldn't back down now. He looked at the echo of the alien commander, its form flickering, fractured light dancing around it. Its eyes were fixed on him, unblinking, filled with a strange mixture of sorrow and acceptance. Ilara's device beeped wildly, the screen a chaotic mess of symbols and numbers. The anomaly's destabilizing. If we don't get out now, we'll be trapped here, forever. Milo's fists tightened, his voice low. If this place goes down, we go with it. What's the plan, Captain? Reed's jaw clenched. He had no map, no guide, no clear path. Just a gut feeling that the echo was the key. He stepped toward the alien commander, his voice steady. You said I broke the circle. How do I fix it? The echo's form shimmered, its face twisted in pain. The weapon shattered the line between worlds. Time and space, no longer separate. They loop, collide, echo. Reed's eyes narrowed. If this is an echo of the blast, then the weapon caused this. Can it reverse it? The alien's eyes gleamed with faint hope. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. The weapon can end the echo, if you reverse its purpose. Ilara's eyes widened, her mind racing. Reverse the polarity, collapse the ripple. We could seal the anomaly. Reed looked at her. Can you do it? Ilara hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. I don't know. The calculations, they're impossible. The energy required. Milo stepped forward, his voice firm. We didn't come this far to fail. If there's a chance, we take it. Reed nodded, his resolve solidifying. Do it, Ilara. Whatever it takes. She swallowed hard, fingers moving rapidly over her device. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, calculations streaming across it. I'll need to modify the weapon, reroute the energy flow. If I get this wrong, we could tear open the anomaly even wider. Reed's voice was calm, unwavering. Then don't get it wrong. Ilara managed a faint smile, determination flashing in her eyes. Yes, sir. The ground beneath them shook, the echo rippling outward, warping reality. The fractured sky split, revealing glimpses of other places, other times. Shadows moved within the cracks, figures flickering in and out of existence. Lang's face paled. What are those? Ilara's voice was grim. Fragments. Echoes of people, places, moments caught in the ripple. If we don't close this, they'll keep looping, forever. Reed's fists tightened. He looked at the alien commander, its form growing fainter, flickering. Why are you here? Why this moment? The alien's eyes met his, sorrow etched in its face. I was the guardian, the keeper of the circle. When you fired the weapon, you broke my purpose, my existence. Now I echo, endlessly. Reed's heart sank. I didn't know. I didn't mean to do this. The alien's form shimmered, its eyes softening. Intent does not change outcome. You sought victory, and in doing so, you broke the cycle. Milo's voice was sharp. This is getting us nowhere. Ilara, how much longer? Ilara's hands moved quickly, wires sparking as she connected the device to the modified weapon. Almost there, just need to stabilize the power source. The ground cracked beneath them, a fissure opening at their feet. Lang stumbled, panic flooding his face. Captain. Reed grabbed his arm, pulling him back just as the fissure widened, splitting the earth. The fractured sky above them roared, the echo's ripple growing stronger. Ilara's voice was urgent. It's destabilizing. If we don't collapse the ripple now, it'll consume everything. Reed turned to the echo of the alien commander. If we seal the anomaly, what happens to you? The alien's form wavered, its face fading. I am an echo, a shadow of a moment long past. If you seal the ripple, I will end. Reed felt a pang of guilt, but his resolve held. I'm sorry. The alien's eyes were gentle, understanding. Do not mourn, a shadow. You are the circle now, the guardian. End this echo, and restore balance. Ilara's device beeped, a green light flashing. Ready. I've reversed the polarity. If we fire the weapon into the anomaly, it should collapse the ripple. Reed's eyes hardened. Do it. Ilara aimed the modified weapon at the center of the anomaly, her hands steadied despite the chaos around them. The air grew heavy, vibrating as the energy charged. Milo's voice was tense. Everyone hold on to something. Ilara pulled the trigger, a beam of light surging from the weapon, piercing the heart of the anomaly. The world shuddered, the echo screaming as the ripple began to collapse. The alien commander's form shattered, fragments of light swirling around them. Its voice echoed, fading. You are the circle, now. The ground crumbled beneath them, the fractured sky spiraling inward. The ripple collapsed, the shattered reality folding in on itself, swallowing the echo. Reed felt himself falling, the world spinning around him. He reached out, his team's faces blurring as they were pulled into the collapsing anomaly. Then there was darkness. Reed gasped, his eyes snapping open. He was lying on the ground, dust swirling around him. The air was still, silent. The anomaly was gone. The world was whole. He looked around, his heart racing. Ilara was beside him, coughing as she sat up. Milo groaned, rubbing his head. Lang blinked, confusion on his face. They were all there. Alive. Ilara's voice was shaky. Did it work? Reed looked at the empty space where the anomaly had been. The fractured sky was gone, the ground solid beneath them. The echo was no more. He took a deep breath, relief washing over him. Yeah, it worked. Milo grinned, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion. Damn, Captain, you really did it. Reed looked at his team, his voice soft. We did it. But his eyes drifted to the spot where the alien commander had stood. The echo was gone, but its words lingered in his mind. You are the circle now. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. The anomaly was sealed, but the consequences, they were just beginning. The silence was heavy, pressing down on them like a weight. Captain Reed stood at the edge of the barren landscape, his eyes fixed on the spot where the anomaly had been. There was no trace of the rippling air, no sign of the fractured sky. Just stillness. Ilara's voice broke the quiet. It's gone, but it feels wrong. Like something's missing. Reed didn't answer. He knew exactly what she meant. The echo of the alien commander's words haunted him, repeating in his mind. You are the circle now. Milo clapped a hand on his shoulder, his grin wide despite the exhaustion on his face. We made it out, Captain. I'd call that a win. Reed managed a weak smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, we made it out. Lang stood a few feet away, staring at the device in his hands. I don't get it. If the anomaly's gone, why are the readings still off the charts? Ilara's head snapped up, her eyes widening. What do you mean? Lang turned the screen toward them, his face pale. The energy signature, it's still here. It's weaker, but it's not gone. Reed's heart sank. He looked at the empty space again, his gut twisting. Then we didn't seal it. We just moved it. Ilara's fingers flew over her device, analyzing the data. Her face went pale. No, we didn't just move it. We absorbed it. Milo's eyes narrowed. Absorbed? What does that mean? Ilara's voice was shaky. The ripple was collapsing, the energy had nowhere to go. It needed an anchor, and it latched onto the closest stable point. Us. Lang's face went white. You're saying, we're carrying the anomaly inside us? Reed's chest tightened, the alien's words echoing in his mind. You are the circle now, the guardian. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. Okay, so the echo's energy is inside us. What does that mean? Ilara's eyes were filled with fear. It means, the anomaly isn't gone. It's a part of us now. Milo cursed under his breath. Are you saying we're walking time bombs? Ilara hesitated. I don't know. The energy is unstable, but it's not reacting violently. Yet. Lang's hands trembled. Yet? You mean it could? Ilara's silence was answer enough. Reed's jaw clenched. He looked at his team, their faces filled with fear and uncertainty. They had risked everything to seal the anomaly, and now they were carrying its echo inside them. He had led them into this, and now he had to lead them out. His voice was steady. We'll figure it out. Together. Milo straightened, his shoulders firm. Damn right we will. Ilara managed a weak smile. I'll start working on a containment field. If we can stabilize the energy, maybe we can keep it from exploding. Lang's voice was hollow. And if we can't? Reed's eyes were hard. Then we find another way. We've come too far to quit now. They gathered their equipment, exhaustion heavy in their bones, but their resolve unwavering. As they made their way back to their ship, Reed felt a cold chill run down his spine. The world around them was still, too still. There was no wind, no sound. It was as if reality itself was holding its breath. Ilara's device beeped, her eyes narrowing at the screen. Captain, the readings, they're changing. Reed's heart skipped a beat. Changing how? She looked up, fear in her eyes. The energy signature, it's multiplying. Lang's face went pale. Multiplying? But how? Ilara's voice was grim. It's echoing. Inside us. Milo's fists tightened. You mean, it's spreading? Ilara nodded, her face pale. The anomaly's energy, it's using us as conduits. It's creating more echoes. Reed felt a cold dread settle in his chest. They hadn't just absorbed the anomaly, they were amplifying it. The ripple wasn't gone. It was growing. Lang's voice was shaky. If it keeps multiplying, then it'll tear us apart. Reed's mind raced, searching for a solution. But there was no map, no guide. Just an echo that wouldn't die. Ilara's device beeped urgently, her eyes widening. Captain, the anomaly's signature, it's resonating with us. It's calling to something. Reed's blood ran cold. Calling to what? Ilara's face was pale, her voice barely a whisper. Another echo. The ground trembled, the air growing colder. The light dimmed, shadows lengthening. A shape flickered before them, distorted light swirling as it took form. Reed's heart stopped. It was the alien commander, its echo flickering, fractured light dancing around it. Its eyes were hollow, empty. But its voice was clear. You are the circle, now. Milo took a step back, his face pale. What is that? Ilara's voice was hollow. It's the echo. It's inside us. It's using our energy to manifest. The alien commander's form shimmered, its face twisted in pain. Endless echo, trapped between worlds, bound to you. Reed's fists clenched. We destroyed the anomaly. You're supposed to be gone. The echo's eyes were filled with sorrow. You sealed the ripple, but the circle is unbroken. It echoes, through you. Lang's voice was filled with panic. Captain, what do we do? Reed's heart raced, his mind spinning. They were the anchors now, the guardians of the echo. It was bound to them, growing inside them. And if they didn't find a way to stop it, it would consume them. His voice was steady, firm. We end this. Once and for all. Elara looked at him, fear in her eyes. How? Reed's jaw tightened. By breaking the circle. The echo's form wavered, its eyes widening. No, the circle must remain unbroken. Reed stepped forward, his eyes locked on the echo. It ends with us. The ground trembled, the air vibrating with energy. The echo screamed, its form fracturing, shadows swirling around them. The light dimmed, darkness closing in. Reed's voice was unwavering. We're the anchors now. And we're taking you with us. The echo's form shattered, fragments of light spiraling around them. Its voice echoed, fading. You are the circle, the end, and the beginning. The light surged, blinding, as the world collapsed around them. And then, silence. Reed's eyes fluttered open, his head throbbing with pain. The ground beneath him was cold and rough, the air thick with dust. He blinked, his vision blurry, shadows swirling at the edges. He tried to sit up, his muscles screaming in protest. A sharp pain shot through his chest, forcing a gasp from his lips. He looked around, his heart racing. They were in a cavern, the walls jagged and uneven, glowing faintly with a dim, eerie light. Shadows danced across the stone, their shapes twisting and shifting like living creatures. Elara's voice echoed from somewhere nearby. Captain. Are you awake? He turned his head, pain lancing through his neck. Elara was leaning against the wall, her face pale, eyes wide with fear. Her arm was cradled against her chest, twisted at an unnatural angle. Elara, his voice was rough, his throat dry. Are you hurt? She managed a weak smile. Just a broken arm. I've had worse. Milo's voice came next, a low groan. Feels like I got run over by a tank. Reed looked over to see Milo lying on his back, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Lang was beside him, his face pale, eyes vacant, staring at the ceiling. Reed's stomach twisted. Lang. Lang's head turned slowly, his eyes locking on Reed. But his gaze was hollow, empty. Like he was looking through him. I can hear them. Elara's face went white. Hear who? Lang's voice was distant, haunted. The echoes, they're whispering, calling my name. Reed's heart sank. He looked around, realizing the cavern wasn't just a place. It was a reflection, a fractured echo of the anomaly. They were trapped inside the ripple, caught between worlds. Elara's device beeped weakly, her eyes widening. The energy signature, it's everywhere. It's alive. Milo's face went pale. Alive? What the hell does that mean? Elara's hands trembled. The echo isn't just energy, it's consciousness. It's the remnants of the beings who were trapped in the anomaly. Their souls, their memories, they're all here. And now, they're inside us. Lang's voice trembled. I can feel them, their pain, their anger, their fear. Reed's chest tightened. They weren't just trapped in the echo, they were becoming part of it. The anomaly was consuming them, binding them to its endless cycle. His jaw clenched. No. I won't let that happen. Elara looked at him, her eyes filled with fear. Captain, how do we fight something that's already inside us? Reed's voice was firm. We break the circle. Once and for all. Milo struggled to his feet, his fists clenched. Then let's end this. Reed helped Elara up, supporting her injured arm. They gathered their gear, moving slowly through the cavern, the walls pulsating with light, shadows whispering around them. Lang stumbled, his eyes wide, hands clutching his head. They're getting louder, screaming, they want out. Reed grabbed his shoulders, shaking him. Lang. Stay with me. Lang's eyes locked on his, fear and pain swirling within them. I don't know how long I can hold on. Reed's grip tightened. You're stronger than this. Don't let them take you. Lang's breathing steadied, his body relaxing. I'll try. They continued forward, the cavern twisting and turning, each step echoing around them. The shadows grew darker, the whispers louder, clawing at their minds, filling their thoughts with memories that weren't their own. Reed stumbled, his vision blurring. He saw flashes, images of battles fought long ago, faces twisted in agony, voices crying out in despair. He could feel their fear, their hopelessness, their pain. Ilara's voice broke through the haze. Captain, look. Ahead of them was a doorway, its frame glowing with a blinding light. The air around it shimmered, rippling like water. Reed's heart raced. The exit. Ilara's face was grim. It's not just an exit, it's the source. The heart of the echo. Milo's fists clenched. Then we destroy it. Lang's body shook, his eyes glazed. No, we can't, they're trapped. If we destroy it, they'll be lost, forever. Reed's chest tightened. The souls trapped in the anomaly, they were the echoes, the remnants of lives lost to the ripple. Destroying the heart would break the circle, but it would also erase them. Ilara's voice was quiet. We can't save them, Captain. They're already gone, just shadows, memories. Reed's jaw clenched. He looked at his team, their faces filled with pain and exhaustion. They were fighting not just for their lives, but for their souls. His voice was steady. We end this. Not just for us, but for them. We break the cycle. They approached the doorway, the light blinding, the air vibrating with power. The whispers grew louder, desperate, pleading. Faces appeared in the light, twisted with pain, eyes hollow and empty. Lang stumbled, his body shaking. No, please, don't leave me. Milo grabbed his arm, holding him up. We're not leaving you behind. Reed stepped forward, his heart pounding. He reached out, his hand touching the light. It was cold, searing, burning through his skin, his body trembling as the energy surged through him. Voices filled his mind, a chorus of screams and whispers, pain and sorrow, hope and despair. He could feel them, all of them, trapped in an endless echo, lost between worlds. His vision blurred, the faces swirling around him. He saw the alien commander, its eyes hollow, its voice a whisper. End the circle. Reed's voice was a whisper. I will. He closed his eyes, his body trembling, the light consuming him. He could feel the echo, the pain, the sorrow, the fear. He could feel it all. And then, he let go. The light surged, exploding around them, shadows screaming as the cavern shattered, the walls collapsing, the world crumbling into nothingness. And then, silence.